Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did. So let's get started. Number 5 was The Sheep Detectives, making $9.2 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $47 million and a worldwide total of $82 million. The Sheep Detectives held really strong this weekend. It only fell 4% from last weekend. I'm sure Memorial Day helped it out a bit, but that is really surprising to see, especially considering the other big movie out right now seemed to be geared towards a mostly family audience, and I think many people were assuming that would really just hurt The Sheep Detectives a lot this weekend, but clearly not. It stayed practically flat from last weekend. That is exceptional. It shows that, again, just the word of mouth on this has just been really electric and strong. And while, yeah, it still has a ways to go to doubling its budget, the fact that it's approaching 100 million worldwide is respectable. It is still like the strong family film to see right now, and it's still got a couple more weeks until Toy Story 5, the next big kids movie of the summer. This movie really is doing strong right now. Again, it's another option for families, and the movie itself is really good, and it's making the most out of the strong reception it's gotten. It definitely surpassed my low expectations for it prior to its release, prior to all the strong reviews. Yeah, just a really exceptional run. It's not great. Again, it still needs to double that budget. It's probably not going to get there, unfortunately, but given the type of movie it is and the competition, this is pretty solid, way better than I thought. Number 4 was The Devil Wears Prada 2, making $12 million this weekend. It brings its domestic total to $200 million and its worldwide total to $608 million. It bounced back after a pretty steep drop-off last weekend. It only fell 29%. This weekend, really strong hold. I think it's going to be able to stabilize, hopefully, after this, even amongst the much tougher competition on the horizon. What really fascinates me about this movie is how there's a much bigger pull internationally. I mean, again, it's just surpassed 600 million worldwide. That is a really insane feat, but domestically it doesn't seem to be as strong, which I find surprising because, I thought it would be, I didn't think it would be really domestic heavy, but, I thought it would sort of match the international appeal, but I guess just internationally, this is really a phenomenon as opposed to right now where it's just a blockbuster. It's still making a lot of money, still doing very well. Of course, it made a lot more than the first one, and I'm sure everyone who was involved with this is happy where it's at, but I was expecting a bit more given how strong the trailer reactions were and the pre-sales, but this is still a solid total. It's not a disappointment, certainly not a flop or anything, but considering how strong internationally this has been, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the domestic numbers, again, which is baffling to me because, again, the movie's done very well, but I guess that just shows the divide with this movie. Really still doing very well for itself, still a huge hit. I just thought domestically it would pull in some stronger numbers, but still really solid stuff for Devil Wears Prada 2. Number 3 was Michael, making $20 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $321 million and its worldwide total to $790 million. So, as we all expected, given the new blockbuster taking up all the IMAX screens, Michael was going to lose that number 1 spot. It was fun while it lasted, but this movie is still putting up a good fight. It fell around 20% this weekend. Still just absolutely insane run. The fact that we're nearly a month into this movie's run and it's still pulling in these strong holds. I'm still hearing Michael Jackson music every now and again. Not as much as when the movie first premiered, but it's clear that this movie has had a lasting effect and impact right now. Again, a lot of people want to go and see it, and I definitely think Memorial Day certainly helped it out. I mean, Michael, Memorial Day, they go hand in hand pretty much. So yeah, I think this movie still has enough juice left in the tank to get it past a couple more milestones. Obviously, 350 million domestically. It's a guaranteed getting to 800 million worldwide. Now, the big question here is if it can crack $1 billion. It still has to release in some countries, including Japan, in the future. So that's the big question now. Either this is going to end up like Bohemian Rhapsody, where it ends pretty close to the milestone, or it's going to fly past $1 billion. Well, maybe not fly past it, but definitely reach the $1 billion milestone? That question is going to be up in the air. I still think this movie has enough momentum, but you never know. The summer is ramping up. We could see this movie starting to slow down because of that, especially internationally, but right now the movie's still on top of the world. It's still making big numbers. It wouldn't surprise me if it gets past that milestone. Again, Michael continuing to be a true phenomenon right now. Number 2 was Obsession, making $23 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $60 million and its worldwide total to $81 million. Folks, this is historic. This was completely unprecedented. Nobody saw this coming. This is an anomaly in the best way possible. This movie just exploded in its second weekend. There were hints that it was going to do well this weekend. It was really doing solid on the daily numbers, but I don't think anybody expected it to pull off these numbers. This movie increased from its opening weekend by 39%. That doesn't happen a lot. Usually expect that for like a kids movie during the holidays, but this is like a really disturbing, heart-racing horror movie. Granted, Memorial Day, I know, but this is not like the go-to Memorial Day. Again, I said like Michael and even the Sheep Detectives I would have bought with these types of holds, but for this movie to do that, that is exceptional. The word of mouth, the response is electric with this movie. I've heard so many people talking about this, including like outside of like the internet, like online. I've had like close friends, coworkers, even some family members talking about how interested and curious they're about this movie. The truth is in the pudding, folks. This is turning into the big surprise of the summer, and doing so this early in the summer is really, really impressive. I know it's not the number one movie of the weekend, but to me, this truly is the real winner, the story of the weekend. This really just caught me by surprise, and now the sky is the limit for this movie. This is for sure making 100 million domestically, absolutely worldwide. I could see this movie doing weapons numbers, at least domestically speaking. Internationally, it is also pulling in strong numbers, so you never know, maybe it might match that as well. The reality of the situation is that this movie is turning into a complete box office success. I am just flabbergasted in the best way possible. I can't wait to see how this movie goes forward throughout the weekend, even with the new horror movie coming out this weekend. Given how strong it's done this weekend, I think it's going to be able to put a good fight against that one. Well, only time will tell. We'll see how it does this weekend, but I've got a lot of faith in this movie now. Man, what a performance. My goodness. Congratulations to everyone who worked on this movie, man. You delivered a winner here. And finally, let's end the video off with the number one movie of the weekend, which was The Mandalorian and Grogu, opening with $81 million this weekend, and including the Memorial Day numbers, it adds to a domestic total of $100 million and a worldwide total of $165 million. In terms of the Star Wars franchise, it beats the Clone Wars, the original trilogy, and episodes 1 and 2, but it still sits behind Solo, a Star Wars story, Revenge of the Sith, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi, and The Force Awakens. It is the biggest opening of the summer, topping The Devil Wears Prada 2, Mortal Kombat 2, Obsession, and The Sheep Detectives, and it's the third biggest opening of the year overall. It topped Project Hail Mary and Devil Wears Prada 2, but still sits behind Michael and the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So I'd call this a fine opening. I can't say it's a flop or a bomb because it opened to $80 million. It made its budget back worldwide. The budget was $160 million. It's already made $5 million over that. And this is not like a horrible opening. Any movie would be satisfied with this. It's a pretty solid opening in my book, but it doesn't feel special, which is crazy because 2 months ago, Project Hail Mary made $80 million, and that was like, whoa, that was unexpected. That's a huge number. Where here, it just feels like, yeah, that's a safe number for this movie to open. I think it just shows that the interest was there, but the hype wasn't. People were curious, but they weren't excited to go and see that, which is what I saw. The buzz wasn't really as strong or as hyped up as like previous Star Wars movies, which is a problem considering this is the one that's supposed to revive the Star Wars brand. It's the first one in 7 years, and I think they were hoping for a lot more with this movie. It says a lot that despite this movie opening at number 1, again, it's being overshadowed by the movie at number 2 for how well that movie is doing. So that is definitely a problem. I think, the marketing didn't really sell the movie that well all that much. And again, the show isn't as strong as it is now as it was when it was like during its prime. Had this come out like right in between season 2 or maybe even shortly after season 3, I think there would have been more eyes on this. But again, coming out so long after season 3 definitely didn't help it out a lot. And I'm not sure if this movie's gonna have the legs to really salvage this or anything. Again, I don't think it's gonna get cratered by anything. I still think some people are curious, and people do seem to be liking it all right. Critics were mixed. It's like in the low 60s on Rotten Tomatoes, but audiences gave it the A- on CinemaScore, on par with some other Star Wars movies like Solo and all of the prequels. So do with that information as you will. So again, it seems that people are liking it, but they're not loving this. I can see it having like a Mario Galaxy type of run where it still makes enough money for itself, but it falls short of the expectations they were hoping it would reach, you know what I mean? So all in all, a pretty average, modest opening. It did as well as I thought it would. I didn't think it was going to bomb, but I didn't think it was going to exceed expectations, which, I guess it could have been worse. Star Wars isn't what it once was. It used to be seen as like the next Marvel, the next like big franchise, and now it's just pulling in about what I expected type numbers. We'll see how it does in the coming weeks. It's going to be interesting to see how it does as the summer ramps up. I'm sure they're hoping for this movie to have really strong, excellent legs, but I'm not expecting much. But I'm also not expecting a lot worse either. Probably just an adequate box office run for this. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet as we got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And while we got a number of movies hitting theaters post Memorial Day weekend, there's one movie that I think is going to really shake things up, that being Backrooms, the new horror film or psychological thriller based off of the viral online trend of, the same name. I think this movie is going to do way better than a lot of people are expecting it to, and some people are expecting this to do very, very well. I think, a lot of people were so into the Backrooms trend way back in the day, so it's becoming such a large part of the cultural zeitgeist that it's getting a movie directed by the guy who was pretty famous for contributing a large part to the trend, has caught a lot of people's attention. The fact that it's got a pretty solid cast in the movie and the marketing has been exceptional. They've been doing a great job promoting it, and I kid you not, this is one of the trailers where every time it plays, the audience is really invested. I've seen it play a number of times at the theater and the audience gets hyped. They are sucked into this movie. The one thing that I could hurt it is that, like I said before, Obsession has really grown into popularity. It kind of stole some of this movie's thunder, if I'm being honest with you. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two coexist. Can they coexist, or will one hurt the other? That is going to be interesting to see unfold this weekend. But in regards to this movie's opening, I still think it's going to easily take the number 1 spot. I still think it's going to really exceed a lot of people's expectations. This is going to really surprise people. We're going to see one of the strongest horror openings this year with this movie, I think. But we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that landed in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.